If I could meet any real-life superhero, it wouldn't be someone with a cape. It would be a girl who fell 2 miles from the sky and survived. A teenager fell out of an airplane 10,000 feet up and not only survived the fall, but after crashing into the middle of the Amazon rainforest full of snakes, spiders, jaguars and bears. Yes, definitely bears. And who knows what else. She then had to walk through it alone 4 days. She had no food, she was injured, and she didn't even have both shoes. And somehow, against all odds, she made it out alive. Her name is Julian Koepcke, and her story is one of the most unbelievable survival tales I have ever heard. Julian was just 17 years old when this happened. She lived in Peru, a country in South America, with her mom and dad, who were both scientists. Her parents studied animals and plants, and Julian spent a lot of time out in nature learning about the jungle. She wasn't exactly a superhero, but she was pretty tough. She liked animals, books, and probably rolled her eyes when her parents made her clean her room. In December 1971, Julian and her mom boarded a flight from Lima to Pucallpa, flying over the Amazon rainforest to visit family for Christmas. And then the disaster struck. Julian flying through the sky on a regular little airplane thinking about Christmas. But outside the window, the clouds were starting to get darker, like really dark. The kind of dark that make the sky look like nighttime, even though it's still daytime. The plane was flying into a thunderstorm, and not just a tiny one. A storm so huge that lightning flashes every few seconds and thunder shakes the plane. The plane began to bump up and down. You know that feeling when you go over a hill and your stomach does a little flip? That's turbulence. Well, Julian wasn't getting flips. This was full-on roller coaster mode. People on the plane started to panic, some were crying, some were praying, and Julian held her mom's hand tightly. She later said her mom whispered, "This is the end." And then, boom. A bolt of lightning hit the plane. One of the engines caught fire, and the plane broke apart in the air. Pieces of it just ripped away. Then the roof flew off, luggage was flying, and people were screaming. And Julian? She was still strapped into her seat when the seat got sucked out of the plane. Imagine falling out of the sky, strapped into a row of airplane seats, spinning through clouds, air rushing past your face, and having absolutely no idea what's going to happen next. 10,000 feet, or nearly 3 kilometers straight down. No parachute, no helmet, nothing but trees below. And then everything went black. Now you would think that would be the end of the story, but Julian somehow survived the fall. When she woke up, she was lying on the jungle floor, under her airplane seat, surrounded by trees and silence. She had a broken collarbone, a swollen eye, and cuts all over her body. Her glasses were gone, and her arm didn't work properly, but she was alive. Experts think the thick jungle trees slowed her fast just enough to save her life, kind of like a giant leafy trampoline. But now came the hard part, getting out of the jungle. Somehow. Anyhow, fact, the Amazon rainforest is one of the widest, most dangerous places on Earth. It's like Australia, but on steroids. Not to mention, it's super hot during the day and freezing at night. Thus, the survival chance is kinda low. Plus, Julian had no food, no map, and no idea where the rest of the plane was. She couldn't even hear rescue helicopters because the trees were so thick. But there was one thing that probably saved her life. She remembered something her dad taught her. Follow water. If you follow a stream, it might lead to a river, and rivers often lead to people. So that's what she did. With one shoe, a bag of candy she found on the ground, and a whole lot of courage, Julian started walking. She walked through the jungle for 10 days. She swatted away bugs, she got sunburned, and she drank water straight from streams. She was tired, dizzy, and in pain, but she just kept going. Sometimes she floated in the river to rest, and sometimes she just walked. She didn't know what day it was, and didn't even know if anyone was looking for her, but she believed she could survive. And finally on day 10, she saw something that didn't belong in the jungle. At first, she thought she was hallucinating. She blinked and rubbed her eyes. It was still there. A boat. And just behind it, a tiny wooden hut with a tin roof. It looked like the kind of place someone might stop while working deep in the jungle. Julian was too tired to jump or scream with joy. She just walked slowly towards the hut, while her body barely holding together. Then she opened the door, but no one was there, so she waited. But things got a little interesting from here. She found a small can of gasoline and did something a little wild. She had maggots crawling in a wound on her arm, so she poured the gasoline into it to clean it out. Later that day, 3 local men came to the hut. At first they thought Julian might be some kind of forest ghost, but when they realized she was real, they helped her. She explained everything: the crash, the walk, the days in the jungle. They were shocked, but they believed her. Even though the jungle was searched and many others were found, no one else had made it out alive. Julian was the only survivor out of 91 people on that plane. She didn't just survive, she kept going. She later became a biologist, just like her parents. And guess what she studied? The Amazon rainforest. The same jungle that almost killed her. She even wrote a book about her life called When I Fell from the Sky. Her story inspired movies, documentaries and books all over the world. She said she never felt like a hero, just someone who did what she had to do to live. But honestly, that sounds pretty heroic to me.